What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Oli JT Brown here. In today's video we're gonna take a look at 5 interesting hands I played at No Limit 100 on PokerStars. I'm pretty sure there will be a lot of lessons and takeaways for you guys at the low and mid stakes, so without further ado, let's jump right into it. So first hand of today, we open the pocket jacks from the cutoff and the big blind, who is a recreational, goes ahead and 3 bets to 7 big blinds. Here I think you can 4 bet this hand since recreationals tend to mix sizings, and I think this sizing is a bit weak, but I don't have a lot of information about this player specifically, so when I have a hand that plays well in both lines, I usually tend to go on the passive line to gather more information and then exploit him. This time we flat, and we see 9-4-4, recreational player goes for 4 big blinds. In the pre-flop I was pretty sure he had some middle strength hand, but when he goes ahead and does this 4 big blinds, I think he never has top range here, so I probably would never call this hand. I actually will pure raise against this sizing of a recreational, and I go for a small size. I could have gone bigger since pocket jacks is kind of vulnerable. Even if he had a hand like king queen offsuit with a heart and he calls, he still has a bunch of equity, so I think I would have preferred bigger sizing than the one I used in game. I think it's fine too. He calls and the turn is the 5 clubs. Checks, and now we have a decision, and I think the decision is what sizing do we want to bet, because we're always going to bet. And I think here the recreational is going to have mostly like some 100 pairs, stuff like pocket 8s, pocket 7s, pocket 6s, maybe some 9x, like weak 9x, like 9-8 suited, but they usually tend to flat call these hands from the big blind. So I think it's gonna have a lot of base queen, ace king, stuff like that. And I want to target these hands and I want to extract value, so I don't want to go too huge, I guess. And I went for, I think it's a 40% bet. Opponent continues. River is the 9 of diamonds and big blind checks. I see a lot of mid and low stakes player do not go for tame value in these situations, but I've identified my opponent's range pretty well. I think he has some ace highs, stuff like ace queen, ace king. I think he has some underpairs, stuff like pocket 8s, pocket 7s, pocket 6s. And I decided to go for a bet. This time I went a little bit bigger because I think if he has a hand like ace king, if he has a hand like pocket 8s, it's gonna call basically every size that is not all in. I think 50 big blinds is a bit big. I would prefer something like 45, 44 big blinds against the recreational. But this time shows up with the pocket 6s, so we had a good read on the player. And as you can see, you always need to go for tame value. Again, I've seen players play very passively in this kind of situations because they're afraid they have aces. Maybe they don't try to extract max value on the river, because what if my opponent has a 9x? If he has a 9x, you bet, he shoves, you just fold. He's basically never shoving here unless he has a value hand. I'll say it's pretty rare to find a recreational player who bluffs these kind of lines. So you want to go for tame value and then fold if he jams. So nice one. Let's go to the next one. Second hand for today. This time we have a 4 bet pot against the regular. We go for the 26 big blinds 4 bet, and our opponent goes for the call. Flop is a6-4. Our opponent checks, and now here we're gonna mostly bet this hand. We're not gonna range bet here, even though you can probably get away with it if your opponents are too passive. But I think here with the queen 9 you just have a bet, you block his ace queen region, pretty easy bet, and we see a call. The run out is the 8 of spades, and now actually the small blind should donk some part of his range. They're not gonna do that low and mid stakes, so I interpret this check as a range check. Now when he didn't donk some of his hands, I don't think I should bet a lot on this kind of run out, and if I do bet, I think I want to just go all in. Maybe this hand can even go sometimes all in since it blocks pretty good on the ace x region, and you want to deny equity to the backdoor stuff and flush draws that didn't check raise the flop. This time I went for the passive line and checked back. River is the ace of diamonds and our opponent goes for the check. And now here I think most players on low and mid stakes are just gonna fast play their whole range. So if he had a hand like ace x, he's gonna try and extract max value against my pocket pair region. So I think he never has protection in this line with the ace x region. I go all in and I try to make him fold hand like king queen, king jack, hearts, stuff like that. maybe some 6-5, maybe some pocket 7s. If he overfolds, maybe some 8-7. Yeah, 6-5, 5-4. If he overfolds, we're gonna print money. If he does not overfold and he calls correctly with those kind of hands, I think it's still a fine shove, just because I think my opponent is gonna have undefended range in this line. So I went for it. Unfortunately, this time he finds the call, and I think it's a correct call with the 8-7. So unfortunately, we do lose this one. Still an interesting spot. Let me know in the comments down below what you've done with this queen 9 with no showdown value. And let's go to the next one. Third hand for today, we have a 3-bet pot, this time against the Recreational, and we see a 6-5-3 rainbow. Now here against Recreationals, since they tend to have a wide range of flat call 3-bets, depends on the Recreational. You always want to take a look at their stats before making assumptions, of course. And this time with the ace-5, I think you can go for a small bet. I think you can go even for a decently big bet, something like 40 to 50%. And I think you can check too. There's not a line that crushes the V of the other line. We cannot know for sure which line is going to print EV against this specific player. So I think if you mix it up, it's fine. This time, without having the backdoor, kind of the middle strength hand, I think we have one straight to value against this player, but I usually tend to check a lot against Recreationals because they have a weak range and they tend to make some crazy decisions with their wide range. Also, they're gonna give you a lot of information with their sizing tells. So this time, our opponent goes for the 6.64 big blinds bet, close to a 30%. We continue. I don't think there's much merit to raise this hand. Run out is the 3 of spades. We check, and our opponent checks back. Now I think is where things get interesting, because recreation players tend to fast play a lot. I think if you had a hand like pocket 7s, pocket 8s, pocket 9s, even some king 6, like a6, stuff like that, I think it would have mostly gone for bet here, especially if you had 7-4 suited, which a recreational of course can have in the flatting range. I think they're gonna just fast play these hands. Hence they can check back. They are actually beating us, stuff like pocket 5s, pocket 6s. There's really few combos, it's not a huge problem. River is the deuce of spades. Now here, I think against recreationals, you have to identify their range. If he had a hand like a 4x, he would have mostly bet the turn. Yeah, sure, he's gonna check some 5-4, stuff like that. Overall, he would have mostly bet his 4x region. Of course, you can have some flushes. I don't think there are a lot here. I think my hand can even extract some value against this ace-x region. Maybe like ace queen offsuit, ace jack offsuit. I don't think it's gonna fall to a block bet. So I go for a block, and our opponent goes all in. Usually, recreationals tend to underbluff in these kind of situations, but when they have a wide range, this guy was a high BPIP player, I think you can easily bluff catch more. If you have some random 2 overcards, he's gonna try and represent the 4, he's gonna try and represent the flush against this small bet. So I don't take a lot of time and just flick in the call, and this time he shows up with the queen jack offsuit. So again, good read on recreational. It's gonna make you print money. So always pay attention to their BPAP. Always pay attention to their size intels. Nice one. Let's go to the next one. Just a quick break, guys. If you're enjoying the content so far, like and subscribe to the channel. I'm a small creator, so it will really mean the world to me. Now back to the video. Hand number 4, we have a 3-bet pot against a regular player. We go for a big 3-bet sizing with the ace-9 offsuit. Of course, a pretty low frequency play. You usually tend to go for the lower part of the ace-x regions, stuff like ace-4, ace-3, maybe some ace-5. This time regular calls, so we play a 3-bet pot out of position, and we see a 9-5-3. Now here, usually when the 9x boards in a 3-bet pots are disconnected like this, you can go something like a b60, b70, b75. All are going to work fine. So this time I went for the big bet, and our opponent calls. Now here, in game I thought I should have just played in a triple barrel this spot. I actually looked at the simulation, and solver just prefers to go all in. I think it's close in EV, especially if your opponents are passive and don't raise jam you a lot, and you can bluff and realize your equity. I think it's gonna be even better to bet something like a half pot or another 60%. At this time I went for the half pot. Our opponent continues, and river is the 10. Now here of course, we're gonna be beaten sometimes. You know, it's gonna have the 5-4, it's gonna have the 7-6, it's gonna have the pocket 5s, pocket 3s, stuff like that. It's gonna have the occasional 10x with diamonds, sure, but here we wanna try and maximize against these ace 5, ace 4, lower 9x, something like jack 9, king 9, stuff like that. Maybe some pocket 6s, pocket 7s. I think you're just gonna have to jam here, and we went for it. Unfortunately, this time regular had the 7-6 suited for a straight. Unfortunately, we lose this one. I think it's important here. I see most players just to be afraid at rivers. Here, you don't want to really check call this hand. It's not profitable to check call. When you check, your opponent is going to be checking back most of the hands that you're beating right now. You want to try and extract max value against those hands and not worry a lot about the hands that are actually beating you. You're actually betting pretty small size, so flop top pair with a good kicker, still good enough to go for it. Unfortunately, we lose this one. Let's go to the last one. Last time for today, we have a 3-bet pot against a regular, and we have a king 10 for monotone board. Usually on monotone, you want to be careful. King 10-4 is pretty good for the 3-better anyway, so I think the small size, with this hand specifically, you can go most of the time for a bet, and I go for the small sizing, and we see call. See a turn, and the turn is the 10 of hearts. As the small blind, you can donk bet, but I wouldn't go for a small donk. I think here, if you want to go for donk, you want to represent mostly a 10 and maybe some flushes that you slow played on the flop. So I would have gone mostly for a big size donk bet, but I wouldn't donk a lot here. I think it's still a low frequency for range. And our opponent surprises us and goes for a small bet. So when I see this small sizing, it doesn't make much sense to me. And I think I want to go always for a raise with my hand. I think he's just always holding a 10 in this kind of situations. I think if he had a bluff, it would have gone something bigger. It doesn't make much sense to me. So I raise, and I raise pretty big because I think if my opponent is holding a 10, it's never folding turn, and I want to try to extract max value. And if the river breaks, I'm going to always go all in. This time our opponent calls, and we see river 8, quickly checks. And as I told you, don't make the mistakes or going something like b60, b70. You want to always push for stacked in this kind of situations. I went for the whole stack. My opponent called me, and we see him with the 10-9. So again, good read on the opponent. I think here the turn was the street, but he gave us too much information about his hand. I don't think there are a lot of hands that want to go for a small bet and induce sizing, and I think I would have not fell for it if I didn't have a flush. So not the best try from my opponent, and we win this 290 big blind spot. Nice one. That was it for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. And if you missed last week's episode, I'll link it here, and I'll see you in the next one.